Welcome to Tale Recapped. Today I'm going to talk about the movie Soldier Boy, a real-life story of a young soldier boy who served in World War II. He was the war's youngest soldier. Ahead are some spoilers, and be careful. The elder brother and mother about the story of him sitting on top of a tree when all of a sudden German fighter aircraft pass overhead. The mother instructs her children to quickly hide in the bushes, but her son, who is 6 years old at the time, insists he is not afraid and uses a slingshot to shoot at the airplane. To no one's astonishment, he is successful in hitting the jets and causing them to explode. But when he turns back, he can't find any sign of his family. After having the terrifying dream, Sergei jolts awake and immediately tries to contact his mother. At that very moment, there was a knock at the door. He hurries towards it in the mistaken belief that it is his mother, but a neighbor woman dashes in here in a panic. She gives gratitude to God for preserving his life, and then breaks the news to him that his mother and brother have both passed away. The young child is unable to understand what she is saying, and insists that he should remain inside the house until his mother arrives. The lady informs him that they have been assaulted by the Germans, and that he must flee the area immediately. Exactly at that moment, 3 troops came up to their residence. The lady forces Sergei to escape out the window, but she is killed before she can follow him out of the building. The young boy of 6 years old is currently living on his own, away from his family and friends. As Sergei makes his escape from the home, he looks back and sees his entire neighborhood engulfed in flames. He yells out for his mother, but she isn't there, so he gives up and flees away. After some time spent fleeing, he eventually found himself in the midst of the forest. Because he cannot find his way home, the little child begins to yell out for his mother to come and collect him. He decides to spend that night in the forest. The next morning, as we watch him quench his thirst from a river, we notice that troops on the other side are approaching him. Sergei hastily takes cover among the roots of a tree after realizing that the enemies are hazardous. When a snake approaches him, he is scared, yet he does not utter a word or flee the area. Sergei is more afraid of the troops that are around him than he is of the snake. After the troops have finished their meal by the river and departed, Sergei retrieves the food that was left behind and consumes it throughout the night. On the other hand, at the end of the day, the little kid is completely spent. He hasn't eaten anything substantial in the last 2 days, and he's been roaming about aimlessly throughout that time. Even after he's knocked unconscious, he continues to hobble around. While he is traveling, he comes upon wild berries, which he promptly consumes. However, precisely at that moment, an explosion strikes behind him, which catches him off guard. The little youngster starts to feel lightheaded and starts to have hallucinations of someone approaching from behind him. However, despite the fact that he is in such a dangerous situation, he keeps his composure and assures the other person that he is armed and is not afraid. He moves forward with a limp but passes out after some time has passed. 2 soldiers come up to him as he is sleeping to check on him. Next, we see Commander Kuznetsov at the Russian army base, where he is waiting for the other members of his patrol. They enter with the child, who is hurt and seems to be in poor condition. After the soldiers assure him that they are on his side, the little child finally opens up and identifies himself to them. When the boy shakes hands with the commander, the other troops laugh and urge that the commander also introduce himself to the kid. The troops appear to have a sense of affection toward the young child, and they surround him. They force him to consume water and give him food. Even the commander, who is known for his icy demeanor, shows concern for the child. A nurse by the name of Katya tends to Sergei's wounds, and she can't help but be enchanted by his charisma. Because the youngster aspires to serve his country as a soldier when he grows up, he requests that she draw a tank on his scars. Even the injured warriors feel better after talking to the youngster, since it brings them joy. Sergei is incredibly interested in the commander's pistol as well as his badge. The commander also responds to all of the questions that the young child asks and let him to play with his honorary gun after first removing the bullets from it. Sergei brags to him about being a soldier and shows him the tank that he drew on his stomach in the form of a tank. The little youngster is making rapid progress in his recovery. Katya, a nurse, approaches the commander with a request to allow the youngster to remain with the unit. The commander declines, stating that it will not be safe for the boy to do so, and instead wishes to place Sergei in an orphanage. All of the troops off hours are spent hanging out with Sergei. Throughout the day, he has a lot of people coming to see him. They offer him food that was provided to them by their relatives who live far away, and they even let him use their binoculars to look at things. One day, a soldier approaches the commander of the battalion to request that the youngster be allowed to remain with the unit. The troops have developed a strong relationship with the child, and they consider him to be a member of their own family. His presence relieves them of the burden of carrying the weight of the conflict on their shoulders. In spite of this, the commander is anxious that the youngster be placed in the orphanage so that he may better protect himself. The next day, our adversaries launch an assault which results in the injury of a great number of men. In order to transport Sergei to the orphanage, a van arrives to pick him up. The news is broken to the young guy by the commander, who also presents him with a wooden honorary gun as a gift. The child responds by giving him a hug and expressing that he is concerned for the commander's well-being. The commander gives into his embrace and decides to go in a different direction. He requests that Sergei continue serving with the army as if he were his own son. That night, the soldiers search for infantry garb for the young kid in order to dress him in it. They are really ecstatic that Sergei will be staying with them. Sergei is roused from his sleep by the commander, who then hands him his clothing. He does this while running about, giving the impression that he is a genuine soldier. His fellow soldiers begin to refer to him as their little soldier kid. In the midst of the child's frantic activity, the Germans begin an aerial assault on the unit. The troops move fast to get Sergei to a secure location before engaging the other combatants. The number of wounded service members is rising at an alarming rate. In an effort to contribute in any way, Sergei transports water to the troops who are suffering from dehydration. Because of the bandage that is covering his eyes, one of them begs him to read a letter that was sent to him by his family. The young child is eager to be of assistance, but is unable to read at this time. He then grabs the letter and begins fabricating the things that are written on it, including the assertion that the soldier's cow is secure back at home. When one of the soldiers reveals that he does not own a cow, the others encourage him to play along with the narrative and have some fun with it. In the same upbeat manner, he reads the other people's letters and brings a smile to their faces. The next scene consists of Katya and the commander conversing with one another. It seems as though the two are drawn to one another, but neither of them will admit their love for the other. After some time has passed, Sergei reveals to the commander that he holds the job of orderly in the unit, and he then begins to introduce himself as such. The youngster then witnesses the destruction caused by the assault on one of the troops who was stationed there. It is the commander's responsibility to instruct him to remove his hat as a sign of respect for the fallen soldier. The following day, he demands that the commander assign him an assignment, and as a result, he is tasked with disseminating the letters among the other soldiers. He not only accomplishes his mission successfully, but also compels the soldiers to dance for him. The next day, Sergei takes his binoculars and ventures a bit further out from the base than he normally would. While he is fiddling with it, he notices that someone's leg is moving from within a haystack. He immediately dashes back to the battalion and informs the men about what he has seen. Although they have their doubts, the troops are going with the youngster regardless. As soon as they get close to the haystack, they get a warning that there are 2 German spies lurking below it. The spies are brought in for questioning, and the boy is commended for his sharp mind. The following evening, the commander presents Sergei with the official adoption paperwork for him. He can now be legally recognized as the child's father. Because Sergei is so thoughtful, and because he is aware of the commander's affections for Katya, he decides to help the commander express those sentiments to her. But when they overhear her having a conversation with another man, they erroneously conclude that she is interested in someone else. Once more, the Germans launch an assault on the base. This time, Sergei does his best to assist the soldiers by bringing ammo to the men on the front line. However, the soldiers on the front line give him orders to return to the shed since the conditions outside are too hazardous for him to remain there. When he arrives in the shed, he discovers the commander and the other people there freaking out because their connection to the colonel via phone has been severed. A service member is dispatched to repair the damaged cables. After following the soldier, Sergei discovers that he has sustained injuries that are deadly. He asks the soldier who is about to pass out for instructions on how to repair the cables, and then he fixes it himself. The link is restored, and additional personnel are dispatched. The child of 6 years old ends up being everyone's savior. After some time has passed, we observe the commander and Katya having a conversation by the river. The commander at last tells her how he feels about her and wants her to be Sergei's mother. Katya is ecstatic, but before she can say anything, a soldier approaches them and hands the commander a letter stating that they have been sent out from the base. Before Katya can even finish her sentence, the soldier leaves. The next day, all of the troops, including Sergei, travel to their new base to begin their assignment. On the other hand, when they are traveling, they come upon a minefield which destroys several of their cars. In the explosion, Sergei's close friend and the group's orderly both perished. The explosion also injured the group's leader. The commander comforts him while he sobs. They continue their track to their new headquarters while carrying the injured members of their group with them. When they arrive at the other base, they are greeted by the general, who is the leader of the commander's team. He too is taken aback by the child's drive, and he offers his congratulations to the commander on the birth of such an intelligent child. The next day, their division is honored with a guard's flag, and the youngster is one of the recipients of this honor as well. When the general hands him his badge, he makes a solemn pledge to the people of his nation to safeguard it. In the middle of the night, their headquarters came under vicious attack, and their leader was left buried beneath the rubble. Sergei sobs for his father and makes several attempts to help him. He then asks for the assistance of the other soldiers, who eventually bring out the leader. The next day, Sergei goes up to a wounded commander and apologizes for the damage his hand sustained while attempting to save the commander. The youngster has quickly become an indispensable member of the group. Because he does not have a family to accompany him, he travels with them everywhere they go during the battle. The movie comes to a conclusion when it is apparent that the regiment is relocating to another base. The story is told by a narrator in the background that he even took part in the Battle of Stalingrad and traveled to Poland with the army. The tale of his famous bravery is now being told to people all over the world, and he is renowned as the youngest soldier who has ever served in any capacity anywhere in the world. You can support the channel by subscribing to receive more videos just like this one, turning on notifications, and like videos. I am grateful that you watched.